Hi there, my California history people. It is Mrs. Chaffee here with our very last recorded California history lesson. I cannot believe it has been 6 weeks of recording lessons that we have been locked in our homes under the COVID quarantine. So this is it, folks. We've made it. We did our whole year-long history class with the last part of it being recorded, and we've made it through. So the purpose of this last class is to explain to you how the California government works and how that kind of intertwines in with the federal government. So a lot of you have heard a lot about the three branches and so on, and I'm going to be talking to you about that and how that relates to California history or California government, and that is part of our California history class. We will be meeting on Zoom. I'm really looking forward to it on Thursday. And on Thursday, we will be doing an in-class or in-house project, making an illustration of the way the government works. So I ask if you watch this video before we meet on Thursday to come to class with a piece of paper, maybe some markers or pencils or whatever it is you want to color with to make a representative of the government. So this is going to be a pretty short video because a lot of it's going to be the project in class that we will be working on. So I'm going to go ahead, y'all, and share my screen, which is what I do. You guys are used to that. I can't believe this is our last recorded class. It's too much for me. So here, I'm gonna put myself down here in the corner. So probably you have heard that we have three branches of government, and we do. And when we talk about our national government, we're talking about these three branches. We're talking about the legislative branch that makes laws. They're over here. We're talking about the executive branch that is responsible for carrying out the laws or enforcing the laws that are made by the legislative branch. And then ultimately we have the third branch, which is the judicial branch, which interprets the laws to make sure they're constitutional. And that's what we talk about when we talk about the federal system. So I have a short little video here for you all.
Hello, I'm Aiden.
And I'm Brianna.
We believe that civics is important to learn, especially as kids.
That's right, the government is complicated and our leaders change all the time.
As kids, we hope this video can help you remember the leaders in the three levels of government. Let's pretend that our country, the United States of America, is just your elementary school.
The leader of your school is the principal.
The leader of our country is the president. This is the federal level.
This is an easy one to remember, but what about the states?
All of our country's 50 states have a leader too. That person is the governor.
Each state, like each classroom in a school, is unique and different.
And your teacher is the leader, like the governor of a state. Do you know the third level of government?
We, the people, local students, parents, friends, everyone.
We can imagine that your group tables in most classrooms is like the city council in your town.
The city council works to take good care of our community, just like students take care of other classmates and school supplies. If you have more questions about the government and how it works,
just ask your parent or guardian or any of your teachers at school.
All right, so that was just a little, oops, what?
Hello,
No, Aiden, we don't want to hear you again. No. Okay, so that gave you just a little bit of an idea of how the three branches also have three levels. So that's where it gets complicated. I think that video did a really good job trying to explain it, make it nice and simple for you. So we're going to talk about the three levels. So we have three branches, executive, legislative, and judicial. But then we have the different levels. We have the national level of the whole United States, and then we have the state level, which would be like our state, California. This is a California history class. And then we have the local level, like maybe you live in Placerville, or maybe you're in Shingle Springs, or like I live in El Dorado Hills. So at each level, you have a branch. So there's a legislative branch, so the Congress makes laws nationally. At the state level, the state of California has a legislature, and they have two parts. They're called the Assembly and the Senate. Whereas at the national level, it's called the House of Representatives and the Senate. Each state has different names for those, but in California, it's the State Assembly and the Senate, and that's our legislature that makes California laws that are different than national laws. And then we have the, at a local level, you can make what are called ordinances that are like laws that just apply to your area. Like there might be special rules. I'm not a horse person, but I know a lot of you guys are. And there might be special rules and ordinances and regulations about horses. Or I know, here's one. Different cities have different laws or ordinances on where you can have chickens. Like I want a chicken so bad. I've seen all these amazing chicken coops, and I want more than anything to have this like 2-story chicken mansion. I think that would be the greatest thing. Have fresh eggs. But in my town where I live in El Dorado Hills, we're not allowed, where I live in Serrano, to have chickens. It's against the rules. But in other places, like in Placerville or out in Ione, you can have chickens. So they're allowed there. So you have different laws in different cities, and different states have different laws. And for a long time, they used to have different speed limits because each state can make their own speed limit, or they could have different rules about how old you had to be when you got married. A different state could have a different law. Every state had their own rules. And then you have the federal government doing their own things. And it's like, wow, it gets kind of crazy. Particularly now we have this coronavirus, and you have the national government, the president making rules, and you have the governors making rules, and then you have the city making rules, and whose rules win. It gets a little bit nutty. Some of you have heard about that. We've talked about that in my coronavirus civics class. So I want you guys as California history students to start thinking, okay, we have 3 branches of government, but we also have 3 levels of government. And that's what we will be illustrating. So at the federal level, you have the executive branch, who's our president, President Bush, or stop President Bush, man, that made me sound really old. President Trump, and President Trump's job is to enforce laws. You have the legislative branch, which makes laws, the House and the Senate that we talked about, and then the judicial branch, which interprets laws. I have this on here because you guys are going to be writing that down when we make our illustration. At the state level, we have governors and state assembly and courts, which we will be writing down. And each group has their own constitution, which is like their own rules that they have to follow. Now, the tricky thing is the California Constitution has to be consistent with the federal Constitution. That sounds kind of tricky. Let me explain it to you. So our Constitution, which I was going to look for a copy because I always have a Constitution nearby. I knew if I looked on my desk, I'd probably have one. Here it is. Here is the United States Constitution. Oh, and this, I'll show you a trick in it. Every time I vote, I put a sticker inside my Constitution because that's so important. So the federal Constitution has certain rules, laws in it, things that we have to follow. For example, we, the people, have freedom of speech. We have the right to speak out against our government. It's in the Constitution. It's a kind of a big deal. Now, California's makes their own Constitution, which I don't have a copy of, and they cannot do anything that's inconsistent with this. So for example, California can't say, we're not going to allow freedom of speech. California can't limit speech because it's guaranteed in the Constitution. Does that make sense? So things that you have, rights that you have in the Constitution, like the right to assemble is a constitutional right. The federal government can't say, no, people can't get together. We're going to make a law against that. That happened once in a neighborhood in El Dorado Hills. Or not in El Dorado Hills, in California, they passed a law that said you can't have more than 5 people over at your house at any one time. Well, that's not constitutional because we have a right to assemble. You have a right to associate. You have a right to be with people. So they took it to the court and they said, can we have people come over to our house? How many can you have? How can you limit it? And so on. So the constitutions have to work together and they can't go against each other. It's kind of interesting right now with all the things that are happening with the coronavirus, because you have the federal level saying stuff and the states saying stuff and who gets to control it and so on and so forth. So if you ever listen to President Trump talk, he often says that's up to the governors to decide, that's up to the states to decide, because he's recognizing those 3 levels of government. So I hope that kind of helped. Locally, you have the mayor and the city council, which we said a minute ago. So we're not going to go super in depth in that. We are going to try to illustrate it out and do some drawings on it to try and help you understand it, because it's complicated. A lot of people are very confused, even adults right now that I talk to about that and try to explain it to them. So we'll talk about it more on Thursday. It's one of those things I think that will help you a lot if we write it out and you start to color it in and see and make an illustration of it. So that is our plan, ladies and gentlemen. Have a good week, and I will see you all super soon. This is the shortest video I think I've ever done. And the last one that I'm going to do for you guys. So I will see you Thursday. If I don't see you Thursday in Zoom, I will look forward to seeing you this summer. If I haven't told you already, we're going to have a huge FLA Park Day. We're all going to get together. We're going to celebrate being out of quarantine. We're going to get to see our friends and be together as soon as our state government tells us that we're allowed to do that. The state government has said that our parks are closed. So right now we can't do that. And they have a limit on the number of people that can be together. Right now, the maximum number of people that is supposed to be together is 10. So we can't go to the park yet. But fingers crossed, it's going to happen soon. And then we will be able to see each other. So take care, you guys. Thank you for hanging in there with me for all of these weeks of remote learning. You guys were awesome. You did a really good job. I thank you so much for it. Take care, and I look forward to seeing you guys soon. Oh, I have to end the silly Mrs. Chappie. I have to stop sharing before I can end the video. So there I go, big Mrs. Chappie. So I look forward to seeing you guys soon. Take care, stay safe and healthy, and we will get through this together. Bye, guys.